All right, here we go. Time for a daily recap video for my day trading NASDAQ futures. And this is basically just me going through questions that I answer in my own journal or parts of my own journal, at least in terms of the what happened today and emotions and psychology and things like that. In addition to what I go through here in this documenting of my day, I also do a bunch of documenting on the charts and studying what happened today, So let's dive in. What happened today? Well, in brief, I took 0 trades, and I think that's going to be interesting to dive into in more detail here in just a second. Next, what did the market follow my expectations today? Ultimately, yes, which is a real big win. I'm always excited when I can predict roughly what price is going to do. And today that was exactly what happened. We opened here at 9:30, this blue dotted vertical line. And my expectation for the day was I was expecting price to come down. One of two things essentially, but both very similar. I was expecting price to come up and then rebalance back down, or I was expecting price to take liquidity down on sell side and then rebalance back up into here. You can see this arrow was here during my stream, and overall my expectation was met, and that is because of the higher time frames, like the 1 hour chart. We had this 9 a.m. candle in the green one right there. There was this fair value gap right here at 9 a.m. And there was also another gap right up here. And I was expecting, we had such an expansive leg overnight and through London session and pre-market that I expected some rebalancing of the buy side liquidity up in here. So I was expecting that kind of movement. What I wasn't expecting is for it to go as high as it did into premium, which, there's another gap right here I missed. That's the gap. So that's the only thing where I kind of got off a little bit, but the narrative was right, just the levels were not. I was looking to short maybe up in here, but anyways, so the market by and large followed my expectations today. I was bearish on the day, and I got more or less bearish delivery through the New York AM session. So next, what is the play-by-play analysis of today? So basically, I wait for 9:30 to open. I don't take trades before 9:30, and 9:30 formed this beautiful breaker and inversion model. And I set a limit order here. This trade was against my bias initially, but I saw enough reason for it to go higher. And this was I checked in with one of my mentors who was also expecting longs today. So I checked my own bias and I said, I can expect longs to a certain point, and then I can expect shorts. And so when this long here presented itself, I placed a limit order, and obviously it didn't fill my limit order and then ripped without me. But what I think is what I really liked about this experience here today is I prepared for this. Ahead of getting into the charts, I do a lot of mental preparation to make sure I'm embodying the identity, the character, the actions of a profitable trader. And one of the things that I do is I prepare myself for this situation. And I feel like it's a small thing to do, but it makes a really big difference, because in the past it would have possibly caused me to chase price and FOMO in and take unnecessary losses. But ultimately, there's an exercise where we can visualize the outcomes of a trade. And typically that's done where we visualize, ahead of time, getting into the trade and it running to your take profit and not experiencing any emotion. And then there's also visualizing the scenario of taking the trade and it running to your stop loss and also experiencing no emotion. So one of the variations of that exercise that I also like to do when I'm doing it is I like to visualize not getting my order filled. And because it happens, like it's a part of trading. So we should prepare for it. No different than getting stopped, or no different than getting a profit target hit is we should prepare for just price running without us. Like it was perfect. It looked really nice. It was moving. I just didn't get an order fill, and I wasn't going to chase price. For me, this was my line in the sand. I couldn't mark it in up in this candle. Too big of a stop loss for me. So that's just where I said I'm expecting at least some small retest. Didn't get it. But I really wanted to point that out because I think that's a superpower to be able to watch price run without you. And if you can do that, then you're level headed for when the setups do come later on. So that was what the first trade. The second setup that came today is here's the shorts I was expecting. It met all criteria. It was aligned with my bias. It was at levels that I was interested in. It didn't look very good. So here was the inversion that I was interested in potentially taking. But I know my data shows that these small little inversions have a lower win rate. So I didn't take it. And that's fine. I let price again run without me. Now, when we came down into here, I kind of started to see the potential for a long. I was a little hesitant, kind of going, that would be against my overall thesis of a bearish delivery for the rest of the session. So I was kind of mulling the idea of a long, but nothing was quite looking right. And in the end, price never delivered it in a way that I was interested in taking part of it or the short. It was just consolidating. So here at about 10:40, I logged off and called it a day, just knowing that this is a lower probability day where we have non-farm this week, which means the PM sessions are a little more likely to be unfriendly. And I logged off, content with enough today. And then I sat down at the charts just to make this videos. And I saw this long setup. I didn't engage because that's one of my rules is I don't just sit down and take trades. But it would have played, while it would have played out nicely today to these, equal highs all the way up in here, I chose to stick to my rules and not engage. So the next question is, what was the play of the day? In other words, if there was one perfect trade today, what would it be? In the New York AM session, honestly, I would say no trades because this SMT didn't end up confirming. This was a really nice play, but it would have broken my rules. So I'm okay with not getting in on this trade today. I think that ultimately there wasn't anything perfect A plus 100%. And I didn't evaluate this setup in detail. It could have been. I'm not liking it a ton, but looks like it hit. So there was no perfect trade that I feel like, oh man, I really should have been on top of that. I messed up. I missed that. So next is, did a profitable trader show up today? Yeah, I spent at least 30 plus minutes ahead of the session mentally preparing myself. I spend more time psychologically preparing myself ahead of a session than I do in the charts. The technical analysis is easy. That's the stuff that just is, you learn it, you know it, cool. There's no emotion attached to it. It's not the hard stuff. The hard stuff in trading is the emotions that come with the experiences that we have in a given session, whether it's getting stopped out or, price not doing what you think it does, or in this case of today, not getting an order fill. Those are the things that mess with our emotions and start to build up through a session and cause us to make poor decisions. So absolutely a profitable trader showed up today. And next question is, would you take the trade again? So if I took any trades, would I take the trade again? I didn't take any trades, so that's irrelevant. Next question is, oh, I skipped ahead. The question is, so in reference to how I showed up to the charts today, how did that affect how I saw the markets? In other words, if you show up timid or if you show up conservative or gung-ho, how does that affect how you're going to play the markets? I think the mental framework that I showed up with today was positive, and I was willing to take risk. I wasn't willing to take too much risk given the week that we have, and I think I played that really well. So I think the right trader showed up to the charts today. All right, so next question is, was today a winning day? Yes, today was a winning day, and this is why. The rules follow. I followed my rules 100%. My standard operating procedure was followed 100%. Now, I just hesitated on that. Maybe we'll change that to 95% because that SMT down here at this low didn't confirm. and I had placed the order and was kind of scoping things out to see if that SMT had confirmed, and then canceled my order after both discovering the SMT didn't confirm and price was just going without me. And then my emotions and psychology today, I think we're at 100%. So my overall grade today, I gave myself an A+ on performance for the day, even though I did not take any trades and was still green. This is the foundation for profitability, and the profit will come. I'm focusing on the process. So next question, was today a profitable day? Today I was flat on the day, no trades. Next question, what notable emotions did I feel? I don't think today I felt any noticeable emotions. Nothing really pulled me too strong either way, other than just your typical, questioning what you're doing. When you get to a level, you're like, okay, am I really interested in a short here? And then you think about it, those kind of questions. So today felt relatively level. I do think in terms of the emotions, this is my second week, going into my third week without coffee and caffeine. And I'm curious to see how that, as I start to stabilize and become more level, which has been amazing, I'm curious to see how that lack of caffeine affects my emotions in the day. So next, what went well today? I think I've kind of described, everything. Just super patient, wasn't trying to force anything, was waiting for obvious, was waiting for perfect. And if any, I'm happy with how today went. Next question is, would I like to improve anything from today? This is one of those interesting days where, so here's an imperfect trade that played out. Here's an possibly imperfect trade that played out. And I begin to question myself in terms of, should I be a little bit more aggressive in my trading, which has been historically a thing for me. So I do want to keep that in mind. Today was one of those days where I could have actually pressed the button and been right. And not most days are not like that, but that is today, and it makes me feel like I could improve upon being a little bit more aggressive and potentially hanging out at the charts a little longer. Here, I was right to log off because price didn't do anything I was interested in this zone. But had I been at the charts, 10 minutes earlier today, maybe I would have taken that long. It's within my rule set that I can trade up until noon. So if anything, maybe the thing to improve for today is to, if I log off, to be checking the charts and be more at the ready until 12. So maybe that's the improvement for today. All right, so final comments on today's session. Yeah, I guess I am noticing it's been a rough, not rough, but the last week I've hardly traded. Just nothing looked right, or I wasn't confident, or I wasn't, like in the case of this trade, I wasn't around the charts. And these patterns happen, and they can make me be more predisposed to taking a trade when I shouldn't. And so I want to keep that in mind going into this week. We have FOMC this week, or excuse me, I keep saying FOMC. We have FOMC meeting minutes, which isn't the same. We have non-farm on Thursday this week, which means overall Monday, this is going to be a lighter week. I'm not going to push it as much. So it's interesting that the timing of the two kind of converge, where I'm feeling better after quitting coffee, ready to be more aggressive trading, but then the markets may not be providing that this week. So I got to keep the balance of those two, I think. Other than that, that's a summary of my day today, and checked off yet another day trading, and it's about the repetition. It's about the reps, and that's all. So cutting the video here, and I'll be back tomorrow to do some more trading.